With critical focus on the Nigerian economy.
Business Express this morning, the 6th. The Rotis is talking some bad traffic. I heard a trailer fell on the road, so it's causing really terrible traffic, and we hope it gets in here. But our analysts are in the studio with us. We have Ayo from Afri Invest. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. And then economist Nonso Obikili. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nonso. All right, so the market update from yesterday. The stock market saw a second day of positive trading. The all-share index closed up by 2.5% with 37,854 points. Year to date, the market is down by 1%. We have 39 gainers and 15 losers. O&O was the top gainer, up by 9.8%. Consolidated Hallmark Insurance was the top loser, down by 6.7%. The Forex rate is at 363 Naira to the dollar. So before I get to you, Ayo, Lagos, join the conversation by sending us a message on WhatsApp to contribute. Send it to 0809 444 0981. That's 0809 444 0981. You can also send a message via use the hashtag BusinessExpress 981. Ayo, when we look at this, it's interesting market sentiment, really. What's your take on it? And do you think the current bull run can be sustained?
Okay, basically, it's really relieving to see the market rebound back this week. For proud to the beginning of trading this week, we saw markets, go on a 11-day bearish run. So markets, in fact, last week market lost about the ocean index lost about 6.4%, which was representative. It was a very strong representative of the bearish sentiments in the market. Even though we saw investor sentiment even rebound to close to the 1 times point last week. At some point in time, investor sentiment was still around 0.2 times. So it shows the level of the bearish sentiment we had at some point during the bearish run. But coming into this week, we have seen market rebound. On Monday, the ocean index gained about 0.5%. Yesterday gained another 2.5%. So it was expected that market would definitely rebound, because looking at investor sentiment towards the end of last week, we noticed a lot of bargain hunting by investors in mid-cap stocks, particularly mid-cap banking stocks and consumer goods stocks. So we noticed that some sort of bargain hunting on that end. And looking at that, we just knew it was a matter of time before the bargain hunting by investors would spread down to the market bellwethers, which were the major drivers of the downtrend we saw in the market last week. And definitely, basically, it was because of foreign investors, exiting their positions in those bellwethers and repatriating capital. So coming into the week, we expected that coming into this new trading week, we expected the rebound in the market. And we have seen that investor sentiment is even at about 2.6 times yesterday. So it's indicative of the fact that the bullish sentiment now is back into the market. Trying to just buy the dip of some of the stocks that have lost some value over the past 11 days where we saw the bearish run. We expect that we understand the fact that this bullish run that we are seeing is not some long term, because what we are just saying, we are seeing short advantage of the attractive entry opportunities that are available. At some point in time last week, a stock like Guarantee was at about 38 Naira, 38.65. So I mean, that was a good entry point for an investor. We also saw banks like stocks like Zenith also down to the 25 Naira region. So it was just expected that we'll see this rebound, and that's what we have seen this week. But going forward, we are not expecting it to continue in the long term, because we believe that the major drivers of this bullish performance are basically short-term investors who just want to take advantage of the low prices in the market, come in, make some money, and then book their profits. So we most likely will see the bullish sentiment taper down towards the end of the week.
Interesting, Ayo. Thank you very much. We'll go to Nonso with this one. Now, you've written a piece on the Guardian newspaper titled "The Gravity of the Nigerian Situation," where you talk about the focus, or how the focus of the presidential candidates should be on the economic indices. Now, could you share some light on that article and how it reflects the sentiments that you share in that piece regarding the upcoming elections?
Okay, so we are kind of an important time in our history, in the sense that we have presidential elections next year, and from an economic perspective, we are at a turning point in the sense that we could continue the recovery and move on to better things, or we could stumble along like we did in the 80s. Now, the 80s are very important because at that point in time, we had an oil price crash, and then we responded, but we ended up having 2 decades of like sluggish growth. Most economists refer to that to Nigeria as lost decades because we just didn't grow at all. We ended up having people continuing in poverty, and it was a big challenge. And we're kind of at that situation again, where we have to figure out what we're going to do to get the economy back on track. And people think it's a small challenge, but it's not. I mean, if you think about the unemployment numbers, we have about 20 million people entering the labor force in the next 3 years. 20 million. That's a huge number. That's more than some countries.
Yeah.
And we don't know how we're going to deal with that. If we want to get unemployment just does not increase, we need to create 5 million jobs a year, which is a big number. How are we going to deal with that? And including the poverty numbers too, which we stopped measuring a while ago because we don't have money to measure it, at least officially. Then the scale of the challenge should have everybody thinking about, what are we going to do? And that should be what the presidential focus should be about. That should be what the election should be about. But as we've seen over the last few weeks, it's turning into something else where it's about personality and politics
and personal sentiments and all.
Sentiment, and it's becoming kind of a circus, right? And it's really up to voters to kind of refocus the discussion on these issues. Because if we go another 20 years without any kind of significant improvement, that would be a shame. We're already seeing the problems pop up in parts of the country. It's violence everywhere. Poverty everywhere, and
it's kind of interesting because here, I mean, it's stated that 53% people in Nigeria were living in poverty, with under another 18% vulnerable to it. And it's something that's very informative to look at the market situation right now and how policies really affect how the nation is going. But anyway, we'll move on very quickly. We'll go to a look at how CBN approved the wider margin for BD. So I'll come to both of you with this one, Ayo and Nonso, as it looks like the central bank has given the BDCs more breathing room. What are your thoughts, Ayo, first?
Okay. Looking back at to sometimes in March last year, we saw the CBN, give a directive that BDCs would have to buy dollars from them at 360 to $1,
right?
And then now sell at 362 to $1. The BDCs were not, so much happy with that because their margins became tighter. So they just have a 2 naira spread on based on what the CBN requested them to do, and basically it was in line with the CBN's objective to try and ensure that the rates across the different windows are converged. So we have there should be some sort of convergence, and that even informed the establishment of the I&E window that we saw later in April that same year. So coming down to this year, we've seen the BDCs continue to let the CBN know that we are not comfortable with the 2 naira margin that you are asking us to operate with. So it was just expected that the CBN will at some point in time pay some attention to their demands. Also taking into consideration the fact that we are seeing some sort of pressures on the exchange rates, that we've seen some sort of pressure on the exchange rate, especially in May, due to some of the activities of foreign portfolio investors trying to exit their positions and repatriate capital back, and also on account of what's going on in the markets now. So we've seen that sort of pressure on the exchange rate, and the CBN definitely has been taking measures to ensure that they are able to prevent any major depreciation in the value of the naira. And we see this as one of the moves of the CBN to ensure that. So we are seeing that the CBN is telling under the new directive now that they can buy at 357 and to sell to their customers at 360 to $1. So we are seeing a sort of reduction from that amount that the BDCs were compelled to sell by the CBN, and also we are seeing wider margins for them. So it's some room to breathe for the BDCs, and also we've seen comments by the chairman of the BDCs Association, that's Aminu Gwabi, saying that at least is some sort of improvement on what they been getting from the CBN. So on that point is is a positive one for the BDCs and also positive for the consumers in terms of liquidity and the exchange rates in terms of price.
Interesting, very interesting. And Nonso, what are your thoughts, briefly?
Well, I think it's part of what is really a dysfunctional market, right? Where you have a regulator trying to dictate to everybody what prices to set. And when things are good, no one notices because everything is fine. But once there are pressures, once there's turbulence, as I have said, you see the regulators starting to run around trying to massage everybody's egos. And it's not sustainable, right? It's not sustainable in the long run. You can't have a market where the price remains fixed for 18 months. Prices are supposed to move. It happens to everything. And so the question now is, what happens when you eventually cannot sustain a particular price anymore? And we've seen that in the last 2 years, that kind of shock creates problems.
Okay.
The smart thing to do from a central bank perspective during good times would be to allow flexibility, to start to remove some of these policies that you had to implement when things were tough, so you can have a better functioning market.
Okay.
But it seems like we're going to continue with the status quo.
Interesting.
Anytime there are pressures, then CBN comes with a new regulation to
adjust
everybody and incentivize everybody. Like this BDC policy is simply to incentivize BDCs to sell more dollars to the market to kind of prevent the currency from moving, because it had moved to like 366 in the last 2 years or so. Right. So that's what it is. There's no economic logic behind it. It's just that.
Well, we'll look at it. A breakdown of the amount showed that $100 million was made available to dealers in the wholesale segment of the market, while small and medium scale enterprises window, actually, as well as those in the invisible segments, got $55 million each. Now, move on to the next story. Nigeria clears $600 million belonging to international airlines, says the International Air Transport Association. And in this story, the International Air Transport Association announced yesterday that Nigeria has repatriated $600 million belonging to international airlines that was trapped in the country due to foreign exchange shortages. Stick with Forex. Now look at this. The Director General actually made this announcement, Mr. Alexandre Dojuniak, on its website, gave the credence at the 74th IATA and Annual General Meeting and World Air Transport Summit in Sydney, Australia. The news agency of Nigeria grabbed this and reports that the funds were airline ticket sales and other allied activities with the country, which the country could not repatriate due to falling crude oil earnings in late 2016 and early 2017. Nonso, do we think the CBN can clear out this entire backlog still owed to the airlines over time?
Well, I'm surprised that the backlog is still there. We've had stability for a while now, so I think it should have been cleared. And just in terms of the volumes, it's not that much for a central bank.
Okay.
Right? So,
okay. Yeah. Same. Looking at it, the CBN definitely has a capability for them to, because of the S to look at the constant supply of giving $210 million into the market every week. So we believe that they will be able to clear this. And the focus should be concerning other African countries, because there are a couple of African countries that are also listed on the list of those countries that have not been able to pay. And the big bulk was around 3.9 billion for so it's really for the ITA. It's more of how they are able to recover everything, even from some other major African countries. But on the side of Nigeria, we'll be able to clear the backlogs.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. So very quickly, let's touch on this last story and wrap up within 30 seconds we can. The piece from Feyi, aka the double F on Twitter, looks at the Super Eagles jersey production and how Nike has manufacturing hubs in Egypt and South Africa, but not Nigeria. What are your thoughts, very briefly?
Yeah, well, I think I'm presume that people think we're a big market, but we're not. Once you go past cheap consumer goods, Nigeria is not a big market for most things, for cars, for jerseys. I mean, if you look at the Nike market strategy, Nigeria was kind of like an afterplay. Their main market strategy was in Nigerians in Europe and US and the diaspora.
Production outside is easier, right, and then they bring it in here.
Right, so
they'll thrive in sales here, though.
No, it's not cheaper to produce here, and there's no big market here. So why should you be here? Right, and that's the question. And it's not just Nike; it's most other companies. Car companies don't set up here because the market for cars is small, and in terms of importing to re-export, we're not that competitive compared to the East Asia.
Things change in no distant time. Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you for making it in here in the studio in a very quick time. Afri Invest. Thank you so very much for making it here. And shout out to Rotus. Hit Rotus with your questions and your comments at Rotanquote on Twitter. Coming up next is Frankly Speaking with Muyiwa Falabi. And remember, at 7:30, we'll go through the details of the stories inside of Freshly Pressed here on Smooth 98.1.
Business Express.